Hi guys, and welcome to Angling For You and the start of the lockdown series 2. Now this is still insanely strange times, and I can't believe truly that nearly a year on from when we started the original lockdown series, we're starting at point 2 of it. It's been mental, and that's led me on to the reason that I'm starting the lockdown series 2. We want to make sure that we're giving back for mental health, and take us or leave us, at least we're making the effort to put content out there to try and help people and give them something to look forward to, hopefully, each day. Now the only slight difference to the original lockdown series is that we can actually fish. The other point of it is the original lockdown was red hot. It was lovely weather and we were all stuck inside, which was in itself very difficult. But this year anyway, this time of year tends to be a little bit more difficult for people to get out in regards to cold weather. Now it's been really cold this week, and we're on sort of the 9th of January I think today, and the weather leading down this week has been very, very cold, and there's lots of frozen ponds. So a lot of people won't be going out there, so we are starting off by starting that lockdown series with this, and this is the first episode, and the idea is to do it for 30 days, and if we can extend it further than that then we will do, but we're going to try our best to do 30 days, one video each day. So what's this video about today? Now this is something that Matt suggested to me, and I think it's a really good idea, and it's going to be, the first one is going to be about my boxes that I've had. Obviously, you know, I swap and change, and when I get my box I do a review. I'm obviously very excited about having a new box, and I'm not saying I give a false reviews, because that's not true. If there's things I don't necessarily like, then I will say them, but the key part of having something is that the longer you have it, you do find there's little quirks in a positive way and little sort of quirks in a negative way. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each box. I'm going to not go back ridiculous amount of years, a sort of 4 years, 3-4 years time, and go through the boxes that I've had and the things that I liked and what I didn't like about it. So in this little space that I've left, and when I wander out towards this side of the camera, is for those items to pop up, show you what the box looks like that I had. I've done my exact photo of my box and my setup at that time, and then I will put some pros and cons on the screens. So the first one in the list is the Dirework Tournament. Now this is going to back to around 2015-ish. I was just getting back serious. The group was in the angling info days, and we just started to get a bit more serious. I was doing the odd match, and I thought I'll put a bit of money into my kit. So I ended up buying the Dirework Tournament, and I got the red edition, as you can see from the photo that's showing you right now. So the box itself came with a lot of things. It had a lot of stacker units. That's the first pro. If you're doing matches and things like that, you need space for stacker units. That was also a fantastic thing for being able to set some of those up for canals, some for rivers, some for matches, and some for pleasure sessions. So you could interchange, you could take 1, you could take 5. You know, that was a great little feature. Another positive was it came, mine certainly, anyway, the deal I got came with a wheel kit. So obviously nowadays most people put everything on trolleys, as I did. I didn't actually use the wheel kit, but it was still there. If I was going on a canal or something like that where I wasn't going as far, I could just click the wheels and the handles into it, and I had a wheel kit, and I could stack the things onto my box and could wheel those down. So that again was a great positive. It looked great, that is for sure. The colours, the red, you could get it in the blue. I just loved the red. I thought it looked great, and looked just a standout box when you were on the bank. Another positive was it was built really well. It felt sturdy when you were sat on it, and it did feel strong, and that's really important for me as a box. Also, the side trays, again, when I was saying the things that it came with, the side trays had a lot of space in there, and the seat was a really nice seat to sit on. It was a really nice leather seat, heavy duty, got a nice pole support part on it, and it was a great all-round comfy seat to sit on. The footplate was a good size, and you know, it lent itself well for people with bigger feet. Obviously I'm not so big feet, so it was plenty of space for what I needed. The negatives. So the first negative I had about it was the fact that if I wanted the certain drawer units in and things like that, it was a bit high for me, and obviously with it not being a H-frame, there's nothing you can do about that. Once you've got a stacker on it, it's as high as you've got your stackers on, which is the same as all boxes that I have now, but the base height was quite high up in comparative to some other boxes I've had moving on the list. So that was the first negative. The biggest negative for me was the legs. Now it was a 28mm legs, and for me, before that, they were fine. When I had them, it was fine and it did feel stable. But when I had a 36, I could never go back from a 36 personally. It was just when you extended the legs, or say you got an uneven peg, if you were sat flat, it felt stable. But when I started to have to move the legs about and things like that, it just didn't necessarily feel as stable as a 36mm leg. And that was a bit of a negative for me. The other negative, and it's maybe not the seat box, and maybe it's not the time of when the seat box for technology came out, I felt that there wasn't a lot of availability of attachments, certainly dial ones, to go on it. It was a bit drab for attachments, so not too much negativity about it. It was a heavy box, but every box I've got on this list is an heavy box. For me, if you're gonna, even if you get a carbon, you're gonna fill it with stuff that's gonna make it heavy. So I don't really have that as a fighting argument, because I park behind my peg most times, and if I have to carry it, then I have to carry it. That's just one of those. You can't really do anything about that. But they're really the only negative things for it. As a box, it was an all-round good box. It wasn't ridiculous money. I think it was just under 500 quid when I got it. It may be been out a year or so when I bought it, and I think I returned around 380 to 400 for it, so I didn't lose out too much, and I did have it for over about a year and a half, I think, on that one. So that's the Dirework Tournament. Certainly a box, all the boxes I've had, I don't regret, so it's still worth getting. And if it's definitely be in your price range just now, if you're in a lower end and you're not bothered about the size legs, then go for it. So moving on from that, I went a little bit different. So I didn't go for a newer box, I went for a slightly older box, and I went for a Reef ST8, and that was a little bit different. I saw this as an opportunity to do a fixer-upper almost, and I got a box that was around 200, I think about £250 or so, from a local guy. The box was in really good nick actually, but it had the silver backplate. It had a sort of pole old school style double bump seat, which I obviously looked at changing, and it also had silver cassettes, which I wasn't a massive fan of. So with this, I'll go into the positive and negatives, and then I'll tell you what we did to it. So the positive wise for the box, being a Reef, it's solid. The 36mm legs were great, really strong, and it did everything I wanted. It got the cassettes underneath, it got the sliding drawers. The thing I did really like is in the drawers were the little individual section dividers to put your stuff in, so it wasn't just rattling around. It did have its own little pods, so you could put things like your shots together, you could put your punches together, you could put your scissors, your disgorgers together, your rig line, all sorts of things like that. So that was really good, and I liked that. But even though they're the positives, it did have probably more negatives than it did positives. And I'm not saying anything bad about Reef boxes. obviously from that box onwards, they've come on leaps and bounds, and a lot of those problems or niggles were sorted out. So lastly, the last point was it did look great, and that's for sure. And before I go into negatives, I'll explain what I changed. So it had a grey back plate. I took that off and put an aqua one on. It went well with the Angling for You, and I was into the Drennan gear, which obviously looked well with that. So that got sold. I sold the back plate quite easily, and I changed that straight away. I also changed the seat for a custom seat, and again sold the old one, and it was easy to change, where it's just a screw off and screw on frame. So that was easy to do. I sanded down and painted all of the individual cassettes so they're all black, which gave it a nicer finish and look, and we had a bit of decals to put on the sliding lid of the drawers of the Angling for You logo. So that made it, just finished it off in my book and made it look fantastic. So moving on to the cons. So with the cons, number one was the legs. So the clips, the winders, maybe because it was slightly older, but certainly it was something that Reef have now fixed. The legs did slip a little bit, and back then I wasn't, I would say, as I am overweight obviously, but not ridiculously massive. So I can't say that anybody who was 6 foot would probably weigh the same much as I would without being massively obese. So we can't just blame it on that, but the legs do slip, and I did have a few near backwards over the top moments. Even when I screwed them on tight, they did sometimes slip. So what I did find myself trying to do is adjust the main winders on the legs, because they gripped better than the bottom winders where you extended the legs, and that did annoy me a little bit, but I persevered with it, and we didn't have too many incidents. But the other thing was the draw. So I'm sure anybody that's owned a Reef box, certainly the early ones, will definitely relate to this. It nips, the draw nips, and what I mean by that is if you've got weight on your leg near the drawer when you're trying to open it, what happens is there's not enough clearance between the top of the drawer and the seat. So when you sit, it compresses and it nips it. So it's very difficult sometimes to pull out the drawer unless you lean your weight slightly off it. It's really annoying. Really annoying is that. And that was just one of the most negative points that I found. That really drove me absolutely potty. And the last thing that was quite a negative thing was the quality of the clips on the drawers. Not the clips to lift the cassettes up, the actual slide out drawers. The handles on those were so weak, and they came away and broke easily. I found a company that did metal fascias, so you leave the existing button, and when the handle comes off, you just stick the fascia over it. It's got its own handle, and you use a little button to keep opening it, and it was fine after that. But it did look good. I got them in aqua again, and it matched the box. But that's something, if you're looking at it, you definitely need to recommend looking at, because after time, those clips the handles just disintegrated. And the box, when I got it, were probably 4 or 5 years old, and I had it for, again, about 2 years. So it does sound like there's a lot of hate, but it was just little small petty things, and I would definitely have a Reef box in the future. They're expensive boxes, that's for sure. That's, most of the top flight ones are in the £1,000 or above bracket, and I wouldn't discount having one. I nearly got the Reef Guru Reef one this time, but yeah, so let's see what happens in the future. So that was the next one, and then moving on from that, we have the Preston Absolute White 36. Now that was just an absolute beast. That box, when I got it and I sat that down, I thought, this is the absolute best. And it is a heavy box, but I'll go through the positives first. So still, the Matrix is close, but still the comfiest seat I've sat on. It's a gel seat, and just fantastically comfy. It really is. and that were the biggest positive, aside from the look. Now, I got it in white because I'm a tart. Black still looks good, but the white for me, just all day long, looked fantastic. The frame itself, just super strong. The stance of it is wide. The 36mm legs, again, it just felt absolutely planted and really did feel like you were just never ever gonna fall over or even move an inch, and that was a real big feature. And again, the sliding drawers were good, and they had the individual sort of divider parts again, like the Reef did, and I loved that. I really did. That was I really enjoyed that that box. And the attachments, obviously Preston said a plethora of attachments for it, which were all quick release and really easy to get on with. And the positives really were just massively outweigh any cons. And for me, it's still one of the best boxes that you can buy, the Preston. And if I didn't have the channel and I moved things on, I probably would have still had it for a longer amount of time. So that is a great box. So if you've bought one of those and you look at a new video and see that I bought something else and you think, oh god, I wish I should have got this one, what he's got in now, don't worry about it, because you've still got one of the best boxes that are on the market, in my opinion. So the negatives, and there isn't that many. Straight away, it never nipped on the drawers. That was the biggest thing I found as soon as I got it. I was like, oh my god, this is brilliant. But there is a negative in regards to standard stuff. You don't get a lot. If you're a matchman, you get a rig drawer or two rig drawers, one underneath, one on top, and one pull-out drawer. So it's not a lot. For a pleasure angle, it's probably fine. I just about got away with it, but if I were fishing matches, you would have to add extra cassettes, certainly, to get your stuff in, because it just wouldn't be enough. So I suppose that's a small negative if you're a matchman, because they're not going to be cheap items. When you keep adding cassettes at around 90 quid, it can get a little bit expensive. So that is one negative side. The other side is a bit on paint finish, where the foot plate slid in, the enamel paint did start to come off in few places. Luckily it was on the inside where you couldn't see it, especially when you were fishing, and then when you slid the drawers in. That might be down to a little bit of grit or mud being on the sliders when you slide the foot plate in and out. I don't know, but that was a little bit disappointing, especially with a white box. It stands out like a sore thumb. So that was a little bit annoying. And obviously the stickers on the side, they did peel off in places as well. But what they do is they do give you more stickers, so it's obviously a problem that happens because they do peel off. Now personally, I didn't have any other problems other than that, but I have seen things with where the legs, where the screw is and the rings, where the legs join at the bottom, do crack and fatigue. I'm assuming that's for people that are really going some with like 3 or 4 times a week fishing, throwing it in and out of vans and down bankings, that they do fatigue. Is a weak point. There's people out there that do replacement sort of rings that go on for screwing alloy ones that don't break, but that's not something I experienced in the year or so that I actually had it. So just to look out for that. But there's plenty of things on the internet about it, but it's like anything, the more use you give it, the more weaker it's going to get over time. So from the Absolute, now this is where we went left field a little bit, and god did I get some hammer for it. But it's all about the experiences of the channel and experience of showing people different things. So I went for a Gabriellino competition GB650. Now that's a mouthful. And straight away I was drawn to how beautiful it looked. We'll start again with the positives. But baby blue or sky blue just looked absolutely mint. I loved it. The colour, the shape of the frame, the nice Gabriellino plaque with a black alloy at the back, the nice little Gabriellino badging on the seat at the back, and the blue piping. just set it off amazing. And again, it had the 36mm legs for the stance, which made it a real nice package. Again, still around that £500 bracket, around that £400 bracket, but with the £100 I paid for the tray on top. The things, again, if you're using matches, you would need to put cassettes in. So before I go on to the very few negatives, again, attachments, Gabriellino attachments were great. Probably one of the most solid attachments I've ever used in my entire life. That umbrella arm that I put on, the double umbrella arm, I think you could have hung off that, stood on that, it was that strong. And they were really, really well made. I mean, they were really heavy duty. I didn't obviously buy too many of them. I got a feed, I got the keep net arms, I got the umbrella, and obviously with the side trays, but I were in the shop, picked up the feeder arm and things like that, and you know, absolutely solid. So that they're good attachments. Again, the foot plate was nice, nice to stand on, and the frame itself with a 36mm just looked great. Had that minimalistic design where it was easy to pick up, and they did that obviously to keep the strength and to look at holding down as minimal weight as you could. Another positive is the leg extensions. They had a leg extensions with pins, and I had it on the videos, which I'm sure you've seen, of being stood on it on full. The extension on the legs was massive. You could get to stupid heights and you could stand on it and it would just not moving anywhere, and that it was really impressive. I know they did a PR stunt where they stood about 4 or 5 blokes on it at full extension and it didn't move, which is seriously impressive. So if you're thinking of sort of like fishing on natural venues or where you have to go out into the water or the reservoir or the lake, then it's a great box for that. But moving on to the negative sides of it, the biggest negative was the pinching again. They have the same scenario that the Reef did, where with the seat it nips the top drawer. It was nowhere near as bad as the Reef. If I just leant very gently, I could open the drawer. The Reef, sometimes I had to get off the box to undo it, but it did annoy me a little bit. That was the main annoyance, to be honest. The seat was comfy enough, but the only other thing that I didn't like is the width. It wasn't as wide as the Preston, and it isn't as wide as the Matrix. When I've got the Matrix, I've put it aside and it was probably 5 inch shorter in width than the Matrix. And what you found that slightly when you was fishing on an angle, if you were fishing down an edge, or you got a feeder at the side of you and you had to budge up a little bit. I'm obviously quite small and my feet are quite small, so it's a little bit easier for me normally, but even with wellies on it, it did feel a little bit tighter. And the reason I got it originally was to try out another brand that I'd not ever used and give you a different price range. You know, we did the Reef on a budget second-hand price range. We did the higher boxes of the Preston at the top of the range, and then we went with the Gabriellino, which is like that intermediate range of price. So I really enjoyed having it. I've only had it 5 months, sorry, and I really did enjoy having it. They were just the only two issues for me. The little nip on the drawer, and just a little bit, it just needed to be a little bit wider, just even 4 or 5 inches wider, and it'd have been absolutely perfect. But it was, again, you didn't have a lot of cassettes, so if you do want to fish match fishing, you would have to add to that again. So that, if you want to put that as a negative, but that's only a negative if you fish tons of matches. For me, there were enough space in there to put stuff. Although the drawer was quite shallow, for me, if I'd have kept it long term, I would have definitely got another drawer, so I'd have 2 sliding drawers to put some stuff, because I did have to put some stuff underneath. So do think of that if you're going to buy it. So that moves me on to the final one, and that is the Matrix S36 Super Box, and I got it in a lime colour, but again, because I'm an absolute tart, and proving with the hat there, that I'm an absolute tart. As you all know, I like things to match, like we all do. I've not changed the luggage in a long time, which we're going to do on one of the videos, but why did I go for the S36 and not the newer XR one? So I was sat in the shop, stood in the shop. I looked at them both, sat on them both. They were both lovely. I just couldn't justify an extra 200 quid to get the XR Pro. I just couldn't do it. Yes, it's got a nicer seat and it's got a nice design, but the Super Box, it just feels immense to sit on. It's got the wideness that I like. It's got the 36 legs, the foot plates, massive. All the knobs feel great to turn. There's a massive deep drawer with selectors in, which has got tons of space for me. It's got the cassettes that I need underneath. Yes, it is heavy. They're all heavy in regards to the newer boxes that we use, to be fair. And like I said, as soon as you've got a few feeders and stuff in it, short and all that, it does start to get heavy. So yes, it is heavy, but that's the only negative I've got. If I'm honest, I can't give you any more than that because I've not actually fished with it, so I can't say any more than that on that one. So I don't want to be unfair and say any other negatives than that, really. Why did I get it? I looked at the Map Z boxes, and I did like them, but then I thought the close to the Preston ones that I've had, and I had a Matrix before the tournament, and I did like that, so it just seemed to have everything that I wanted. I do like the H-frame on the new ones where you can get it lower, but with the cassettes that I've got on, it's the perfect height for me. So, you know, that's absolutely fine. And the side tray that goes on it is just absolutely fantastic, which we'll go on to in the next video. And yes, I have upgraded a lot of my attachments. So where we are on that is, I've had the Preston ones for ages. The ones that were in good condition I sold on. I had one or two that I just gave away to friends, and the others just went in the bin. They're just being used and abused for quite a while. So I have got some attachment videos coming with ripple bars, pole socks, feeder arms, butt rests, umbrella. It's not an umbrella arm, it's a bait umbrella. Obviously the video's been up already for the side tray. So I have got quite a few attachments. I thought I might as well just redo them all now when I get the box. Yeah, they'll match this box, but they might not match the next box, but I'll still keep the attachments because they are something that I do hang on to for a few years. So the Matrix is where we are now. Who knows what we'll get in the future. I'd like to think we'll keep all of this one for at least a year this time instead of the shorter amount of time. I feel this one encapsulates all the needs that I've got in regards to a box. For me, it's about having a sturdy platform. I like the width around me to be able to, I feel like I owned a peg rather than just be pushed to a side. I like to feel everything's to hand, and that I feel comfortable around where the mechanics are. And the lasting thing that was I'm going to just very quickly jump back to the Gabriellino. The only other negative was when you sat down, and I fish left-handed, so I need the draw to pull out to the left side, not the right side like everybody else does, because they'll have their tray on the left. You can't do that on the Gabriellino, so I had to move around a few parts on the seat to make that work, which was a ball ache, to be honest. For me, this should be universal, because there's people that fish left-hand, right-handed, and you need to be able to switch that round. So that was the only other negative, but that moves on to a positive for the Reef, for the tournament, for the Preston, and for the Matrix. They all do that, and you can just spin that cassette round and have that whichever way you want, because what it needs to be able to do is the seat needs to detach completely, because obviously if the seat's attached, you'll have to just spin that round. You'll have your pole your pole part of your seat will be backwards and all that kind of stuff. So you need to be able to take your seat off, spin your cassette round, which has your tray in, put that on, and then put your seat on forward facing. That does that on every box that I've had, apart from the Gabriellino, which was a bit disappointing, but we still sorted it in the end. But was a little bit disappointing. So I've waffled on for far too long, but I just felt, after Matt said it to me, it would be a very good idea to just go through that. So if you are looking at any of those boxes, you now have some real-time positive and negatives about using them. Feel free to message me on social media, on the Facebook group Angling For You, or on the Instagram at angling_for_you, and you can go through any of those with you to help you out, make your decision, and obviously leave them in the comments if you've got any of those boxes, if you found the same issues as what we have. So keep safe, keep mentally strong. I know it's difficult times. We've got you back on the videos. There'll be a video up tomorrow as well at 10 AM. That's what time we're going to put the videos on every day. So hopefully you'll enjoy them. Keep those ideas coming. That ideas help us give you what you want to watch and what we need to do to help you. So if you can't get out, just keep enjoying watching the videos. Have a look back through the Lockdown Series 1. There's loads of other playlists with feature films and different reviews and things like that to keep you going. So have a look through those on YouTube. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Keep it safe. Tight lines.